and the green flag waves. The National Championship qualifier is underway with Byers moving up. George Elliott very quickly down the inside as they come to turn number 1. Elliott will grab second, Pay will be third, and also a good start there, I thought, from the Tasmanian Robin Best as they now move on to the back straight, and we welcome Mark Osler and Brad Jones. Looks like a crackerjack race, Mark.
Should be a great one, Mike, as you say, establishing grid positions for the big final, the race they earn points on. But this will be a really do-or-die scrap here because Terry Byers leads them through the first time. Good lead over George Elliott. Terry Byers, the only guy who's competed in every NASCAR race at the Thunderdome here. A real campaigner. George Elliott hot on his hammer, very quick in qualifying. And Adam Pay, the young 27-year-old, the NASTRAC Star Search winner, having a fully sponsored program of NASCAR racing, and he's really putting on a show here today.
Well, Terry Byers started off one of the originals, as Mark mentioned. He's had some good times and some bad times. At the moment, he's leading it and doing it comfortably as we take the DuPont Centauri Paints race cam, riding with Walter Giles. He's back there in about 6th spot and under siege. On the inside, you'll notice Kim Jane trying to go through. There goes Jane as they swoop around turn 1 and 2 and now work onto the back straight. Settling down to a fairly fast pace, Brad Jones.
They seem to be. I've just been watching George Elliott's car, which he's been very fast all week, and they really expected to dip into the 27s in qualifying, but his car's drifting up a bit early coming out of the turns, and I really expected him to get to the front quickly and make Charlie chase him down, but he seems quite content to just be sitting there waiting and as the race drags along.
This is a return to form for Terry. He's had a wretched season. He didn't finish the first round. He had a big collision in the second, and he came 6th on the half mile at Adelaide, so it's a good return to form for Terry.
Looking at 4th and 5th, and the big mover so far in the race has been Alan Grice. He's got Robin Best right behind him. Grice, of course, running in the Valvoline colours as normal here in the NASCAR final this afternoon, and he's starting to close a little on Adam Pay and taking Robin Best of Tasmania in the Uranova Special right up behind him. But at the moment, George Elliott just doesn't seem able to run down Wollongong's Terry Byers, who holds the race lead and seems to be doing it fairly comfortably.
Strong run from Alan Grice, qualified 9th, and here he is pushing his way up. He's 4th now as he closes in on Adam Pay. There he is, Alan Grice in the Valvoline Pontiac Grand Prix. Adam Pay just ahead of him in the Valvoline. And here we are inside Walter Giles' car. Kim Jane still continuing this battle with him as he goes around the outside.
Some great pictures from our DuPont Centauri race cam. As you can see, Giles holding to the inside. Now they work the back straight. They're coming up behind Kim Jane. He's making a concerted effort here to see if he can get by Jane going in low. Can't do it. There's Ian Thomas just ahead of him, feathering the throttle through the turn. I think that's quite amazing, Brad. A lot of people would think, as we take the other angle, riding on the roof now of Walter Giles' car, but there is a little bit of easing off into the turns.
Well, there is, especially the turn we just watched them come through. The cars actually get airborne there. There's a bit of a bump coming into the turn, and it lightens the car, and then of course bang down it comes and a bit of understeer, but the throttle of course is just needs to be squeezed gently on exit. They've got a great dice going there. Kim Jane now has got past Ian Thomas and is getting away a little bit, but Charlie O'Brien's there, and you know, these guys are just going to go out and make sure their cars are right, settle down, and get it all sorted out for the last 50 lapper, because let's face it, that's payday.
It certainly is. There's our race leader, Terry Byers of Wollongong. He leads the charge down the back straight. They're coming up now to put one lap on one of the slower cars. It'll be the first one to be lapped, and that will have happened inside 8 laps, 7 and a bit. As 86 gets the bow by, that's Trevor Oliver as they go down into the bottom corner. And Byers, when he's in the mood and the car is set up, is very hard to run down here at Calder. Normally he gets involved in a couple of little skirmishes from time to time. More recently, though, he's been very, very straight and very, very quick.
Well, the last couple of times he's been here, the car has been fast, and as you said, he's been in the odd scrap or two, but today he seems to have it all sorted out. The car looks good on the circuit. You know, as we sit from here, I can't see it, you know, pushing through the turns. It just looks beautiful on the track, and so does George. You know, we'll just have to wait, as I keep on saying, for the 50 lapper to see what's going to happen, but they both feel like, and they both look good. It's going to be an interesting clash towards the end of this to see who's going to have pole.
Kim Jane comes down the inside of Robin Best. Good scrap here. Kim hasn't had the best of seasons either, but he's always a guy with a lot of courage. Pretty brave on the bankings, and he comes inside Robin Best there in the Ford Thunderbird.
I think Robin would rather be a little lower down the pole line than that. It was fairly close stuff. Robin Best, of course, two-time NASCAR national champion, running the Xerox machine. And there's Kim Jane in the Goodyear entry, just trying to get the drive off the turn. I think he may have, although Best seems to have a fairly strong engine, able to pull him going down the back straight.
Robin's got a new engine in that car for this weekend that he got sent over from Junior Johnson a couple of days ago, and you know, Junior's in America has been doing very well. I think his car's won 4 races so far this year, so Robin's got the new weapon in there, and you know, he seems to have Kim's measure.
He certainly does. Here's the next group. Ian Thomas of Cairns in northern Queensland, Walter Giles in the Centauri by DuPont Paints car. Striking looking machine, the 91 car, as it goes down the back straight.
Look who's moving up behind them, Charlie O'Brien, the man who's only 2 points behind George Elliott in the NASCAR point score. Had a pretty slow sort of qualifying session, qualified 10th. And I'd say Charlie will be playing this pretty conservatively just to get himself up into that final, Brad.
Charlie's been having a bit of engine problem actually, and you know, they're a little frustrated, I guess, trying to get the car up there. I'm sure he's a lot further back than he'd want to be. He'd want to be up in 3rd or 4th place, sitting right on George, and I'm sure they're hoping to move through the field a little more, but at least his car still seems to be going quite strong, so they've got a chance to have a look at it. If they stop, maybe change it a little bit and get on with the job.
This is the battle for 5th and 6th. Two-time defending champion, Robin Best. Boy, for the defending champion, he's had a lousy season as well. A couple of shunts, flat tyres. The best result he had was about a 6, so he's been really struggling this season. Is that an indication of the level of competition, Brad?
Well, I guess it is. He had a great year last year, and Robin's always just sat back a little bit and played the waiting game, and it's paid off. And unfortunately, this year he's been caught up in a couple of accidents, and he's still an outside chance to win the championship. But they're actually moving up on
Gricey.
On Gricey and Adam Pay here. I don't know whether Adam's got a little bit of a problem, but they seem to be catching them very quickly.
Well, Byers has opened it out to about 10 car lengths over George Elliott. Then the group that we've been following, and it's going to get fairly tight because you've got lap cars coming into play here as well. There's Robin Best, the man from Tasmania with the Talladega accent. Works off turn number 4 now. Kim Jane sits right behind him. Jane looking for the split here between the lap cars. Hope it works out for him. There's Grice on the low side. He's already passed Adam Pay. Pay, of course, was the winner of the Australia NASCAR Series.
Ooh, dear me, Kim Jane's very high there.
Not the place to be.
Well, he might get drive off this turn, but he's just lost about 3 spots going down the back chute. Might be able to pick them up. He does, actually. Very strong engine in that car. If anything, Gricey seems to be just holding him up just a fraction as they come off turn number 4.
Well, it doesn't take much of a hesitation to wash a bit of speed off, and Adam obviously just got off the throttle a little bit, and it was enough for Grice to slide by him. So we'll just see at the moment. I think Grice is slowly starting to edge away a little bit, and of course Kimmy's coming back to attack them again. He just gets by Robin.
Well, Kim Jane is the mover in the Goodyear entry. There he is, car number 27, slashing looking paint job. As he goes down the back straight, hauls it up into turn number 4 now. He closes on Adam Pay. Grice is just ahead of those two.
This is a great run from Adam Pay. Keep in mind, this is only his 5th ever NASCAR race. He's mixing it with some of these guys who've been running this category for a number of years. Finished 2nd at Adelaide on the half-mile oval down there. Tremendous run, only his 3rd race, so he's putting on quite a show.
I actually think he's got a bit of a problem. The car is moving around a lot down low on the track. Maybe he's got a tyre that's going down or something, but he was holding them at bay quite well, and all of a sudden they've started to go by. So we'll just watch that and see what happens, but I think he's in trouble.
We're looking at the scrap now for 3rd spot as they come over the start-finishing line. Alan Grice holds that, but Kim Jane is very businesslike in his approach to racing today. Ducks to the inside and is putting plenty of pressure on Alan Grice. Closes up on his bumper now, the Valvoline machine, as they work the back straight. Look at the horsepower. Kim Jane straight down the inside in the Goodyear entry.
I don't think Al will give up too easily here. They're both fairly hard competitors, and Grice will just tuck back in behind him and have another go. There he goes down the inside.
And Kim thinks, got rid of him, he's back again. And that's exactly what Grice will do.
Won't get rid of Al that easy. But Kim's car looks to be working well. He's on the throttle early, he's getting plenty of drive out of the turns, and he'll be setting his sights on George Elliott now, who's really just cruising along there, sitting pretty comfortably in 2nd.
George Elliott about to come across the strike now to complete 20 of 50 laps. Terry Byers runs in the lead. George Elliott is in 2nd. Then there's almost the length of the straight back to third, and that is Kim Jane, followed by Alan Grice. Next is Robin Best. Adam Pay is the next one, followed by Thomas, then Walter Giles, and then Charlie O'Brien. So if he does have motor problems, we've got one going into the pits or down pit road. That's either
Tony Howlett, I think, in the
number 9 car.
Commodore. He's got a wheel coming off there.
Well, yeah, either the wheel's coming off or he's broken something in the front suspension. It's I don't think they're going to jack that up and fix it in a hurry.
No, it's not going to be a chance of just putting on a fresh wheel and some rubber. So the 9 machine bites the dust in the pits. We check out our race leader, Terry Byers, heading down into turn number 3 now, opening that up very, very nicely over George Elliott. It'll be interesting to gauge whether or not Kim Jane can haul in Elliott just lap after lap. He passed Alan Grice. He's opened that up to about 3 or 4 car lengths over Grice. There's our race leader, car number 26 from Wollongong in New South Wales, Terry Byers. Hallett's car is in the pits. Should be looking at the front end. I guess some of them are. They're also looking at the motor. So bad luck indeed for Howlett. The only car on pit lane at the moment.
Terry Byers starts picking up the back markers.
Gee, I'm pleased to see him having a good day here. He deserves it, young Terry.
Certainly does. Regular campaigner on the NASCAR trail.
And whether or not George Elliott is actually getting any closer, we'll have to wait and see. Back to this fascinating dice as we take the DuPont Centauri Paints race cam, riding with Walter Giles, the mountain man from Hazelbrook in the Blue Mountains. He comes up behind Ian Thomas from Cairns. Car just ahead of him. We'll see what Walter can do with Ian Thomas. Hones in on him coming down the straight. Not really sitting in the draft there. Dives to the inside. They're coming up to put
Adam Pay there.
Adam Pay hopefully back 2 spots on the field. They've caught Pay, but Thomas doesn't seem able to go on with it from there.
Well, judging by the qualifying times, Adam was able to hang on to these guys really well. He qualified 3rd, so as Brad said, he's probably limping along with some sort of a problem, but he's still hanging in there.
Yeah, so he obviously hasn't got a puncher, but the car isn't working right for him. So he'll be in touch with his crew, and it'll be interesting to see if he drops back much further, whether they stop to change it and try and get the thing tuned right for the other race.
Tight stuff back there. Walter Giles, you saw on race cam, just snuck past Ian Thomas. So Giles on a bit of a charge as well. Superb looking car.
Yes, they've come up with some great paint jobs on the cars this season, not only for NASCAR, but certainly in the Oscar category as well. Across the line now, Giles gaining a little more on Adam Pay and hosing off Ian Thomas and Charlie O'Brien. Charlie hasn't really done too much in this, but then again, he probably figures out that as long as he qualifies for the 50-lap final, he can do all of his hard racing and his car will still be reasonably fresh. Giles closing again on Adam Pay. There's the view from the race seat, the flight deck in the DuPont Centauri machine, coming down across the line. Closes up, dab of the brakes to get in, steady the car, and now stand on the gas for everything and try and get inside of him coming down the back straight. Now if he's got enough horsepower to be able to do this, no, he's going to just ease it off and Pay will go into the turn. Not too many of the drivers really like to run too higher than that white line through there.
Yeah, Walter getting off the throttle there for a second as Adam got a bit loose. So Adam Pay be starting to feel the pressure from Walter Giles.
Now he's further back behind Pay this time, so that easing off the throttle really does take, as Brad said earlier, a little bit of ground to catch up, and it takes a while as well. Just ahead of them, we'll be following the scrap between Alan Grice and Robin Best of Tasmania.
The battle for 4th and 5th.
And here again, DuPont Centauri race cam as Giles down on the inside of Adam Pay, and they've all closed up on 1-lap car. That's not the spot to be unless you can swing to the outside smartly.
Adam played that quite well. He used the lap car to his advantage, but his car is a bit loose through the middle of the turn as you hear Walter get off the throttle, and that would be his problem. His setup isn't right.
Now the average viewer would say, well, why the hell would he just go straight around the outside of him? You can explain that, Bradley.
It's not that easy. Even though the track looks wide, when you come into it at a couple hundred kilometres an hour, it narrows up very quickly. And of course, right up high on the circuit, where it's a little bit dusty, the car's very slippery and you lose a lot of speed up there. So, you know, it's not the place to be. There's a racing line and that's where you stay.
Well, the scrap's on as Robin Best on the inside of Alan Grice in the Valvoline machine. Moves slightly up the racetrack. Gricey was just a touch loose that time, as they say. They come across the line. They've completed 31 of 50 laps for the first qualifying race for today's National Championship Grand Final, the Snickers 200.
Nice return to form for Robin Best. They're having an awful season. He qualified 5th for Thunderbird. Next Junior Johnson car still keeps up quite a contact with the Junior Johnson team in the States.
Sure, take nothing away from our race leader either, Terry Byers. He has actually opened up that gap over George Elliott. He's lapping huge proportions.
Yeah.
And look at Adam Pay, like he's really come back on the back of Grice now, and with Walter Giles. So, whatever problem Adam was having.
That's a tough one to call. Adam seems to slow down for a couple of laps and then he lifts the tempo again. And, you know, we'll just have to watch and see what happens there. But the car does look loose from the race cam, so I'd say he's not having a great time out there. He did qualify 3rd, so he is a fair bit off his pace.
Alan Grice has fallen right back into the clutches of this battle.
The other thing that we don't appreciate from sitting here is the air flowing over the car. I mean, they've got quite a battle of a long line of cars there, and when you're 4th or 5th in line, oh, there he is.
Here goes Giles down the inside.
Right between them.
Left Adam behind. Nice move there.
Adam's got right out of the throttle there. The air turbulence over the car unsettles the car and moves it all over the circuit, and unless you do it a few times, it can be quite a scary thing.
So Walter Giles cleans up Adam Pay. He's right on Ellen Grice's hammer. Grice would appear to be slowing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there have been a couple of charges in this race so far. Our race leader has gotten well and truly away.
Ooh, gee, that's close.
Well, I tell you what, the O's Gricey won too, I think, so we'll keep an eye on this one. Gricey hangs out by the wall as Giles comes up on the inside, but Grice will go in deeper than anyone. Except he's hung out to dry, and Walter winds up sitting behind this car that has a lap about to be put on him. 38.
Walter Giles getting off the power just for a fraction of a second there. Let's give Grice a little break, but Walter, within quarter of a lap's right back with him.
That's been a good dice this. We've caught just about all of them. As I said earlier, our race leader's out to the hourglass over Georgie out at this stage. Back in 3rd is Kim Jane. It's a similar gap. And 4th, Robin Best. And we're watching the dice for 5th as Walter Giles comes down the inside of Gricey. DuPont Centauri race cam captures it, and he nails him too on the way into the turn.
They've both gone very high.
So he's been hustling along quite nicely, and we've been riding with him. 37 of 50 laps completed in the first race to determine grid spots for the 50-lap grand final here this afternoon.
At the moment it's Terry Byers still with a very good lead over George Elliott in 2nd place. Kim Jane still holding down 3rd. And as we saw then, Walter Giles cleans up Alan Grice, so he moves into 4th. Grice maintains 5th. And Adam Pay seems to be coming back slightly at Alan Grice as well.
Kim Jane is actually narrowing the gap to George Elliott. He's pulling him in a couple of tenths a lap, and he seems to be maintaining about the pace that our race leader is.
There he goes, the Flyers Byers up into turn number 3. Good drive here from Terry this afternoon. Doesn't have a lot of sponsorship hanging off that car from Wollongong on the south coast.
He's done a fair bit of time in the United States as well. He was the first Australian ever to finish a Winston Cup race in the US, which was quite an achievement. When
it certainly is when you watch a couple of those Winston Cup races, Brad. I'm sure you'll agree.
Just to qualify is an achievement, and the finish one's great.
Yeah, the people don't appreciate it here, do they? They say, oh, well, they start 40 cars. I mean,
there's lucky to be a second between the 40 cars.
Yeah.
For every 40 they start, they send 10 or 15 home, so it is a very difficult thing to get into.
And as a category, it's tough physically and mentally.
Well, the races go over there for 4.5 hours, which is a long time to be sitting in a car when you think our touring car rounds are only 2 30-minute heats, and Bathurst, you know, usually spend an hour and a half in a stint. The G-forces and such on the car are so strong, you know, to sit in there for 4.5 hours, it's just amazing. They're so hot. You need to appreciate it. George is doing a great job running around in second. He'd be thinking of his championship. He wouldn't be too worried about Terry at this point, I wouldn't think. The car looks pretty good on the circuit. He'd be very happy with himself, I would think.
Well, only 3 points, as I said at the top of the show, separating George Elliott from Charlie O'Brien. No points on this race. This is only to determine the grid spots for the 50-lap final coming up a little later on. And I guess with the way that George is running, and he's been doing it very comfortably in second spot.
I'm a little surprised with Charlie. I thought that he'd be in and out of the pits trying to get his car right. Obviously, it's not working right, and they're trying to track it down. But here's one car that is. Kim Jane, he's actually catching George, beat ever so slowly, a 10th or 2 a lap, but he is working that gap down. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when George finally spots him.
Well, Terry Byers goes down the back straight. Here's Kim Jane running third on the racetrack at the moment. And as Bradley noted, starting to gain some ground on George Elliott.
Well, guys like Kim Jane and Barry Graham could really be the spoilers in the pack in the points race. Both guys have got nowhere near the points in the NASCAR championship. But in amongst the guys who really need the points, it could be quite a race.
I think that with $12,000 up for the final this afternoon, just in prize money to get across the line first, that'd be absolutely important to a guy like Barry Graham or to Terry Byers. The championship has gone from them.
Terry Byers.
Sorry, I was going to say the money would be even nicer.
Yes. Kim Jane's going quite hard through the traffic, and George is just pulling up behind them and getting off the throttle and blowing by them down the straight, and Kimmy has really closed in. I think the gap's down to a second, so George would have seen him by now, and he'd be thinking, what's all this about? And
yes. Well, coming around now with about 5 laps remaining in the first 50-lapper here at Calder Park Thunderdome this afternoon, and it's Terry Byers who leads from George Elliott. Kim Jane runs there in the third spot. Robin Best is fourth. Walter Giles, great drive from him. Then right behind him, Alan Grice, Adam Pay, Ian Thomas, Charlie O'Brien and Bruce Partington.
Max Dumsney with a problem. Smoke pouring from the front of the car. It's getting worse as it goes along.
I don't know whether he's done an engine or a tyre. It's not actually putting any oil down on the circuit, so...
looks like it's coming out of the exhaust pipe.
Well, maybe it's steam.
That's bad luck for John Sidney and Max Dumsney with their team. It's not really what they were looking for in the way of consistency. It's been a hot and cold season for Max. I thought he went very well on the Gold Coast. Liked the street course. As far as his sprint car racing activities, of course, he saw the national title slip to Gary Rush in Sydney early in the year, and then, of course, his ASC series go to Brad Hayward. So I think he'd like to have salvaged something here today.
He's finished 8th in the 3 rounds of the championship so far, so it's been a bit of a struggle.
But they've got time to go and put another engine in, and I'm sure John's got one laying around there somewhere that they can slip in and it'll do the job. But
and he does have good motors.
Very strong motors. Now, it's all happening for second place here. Kim Jane has just jumped onto George Elliott, and they're lapping a car.
They're going down the back straight.
And Kim will be seeing that the back of George's car, and with 4 laps to go, wanting to get by.
He's really hand over fist.
We've got 2 to go now, and this is what we're following, the battle for second. And Kim Jane sweeps to the outside, the high side of the racetrack, and snaps George Elliott going into turn number 1. That is one heck of a drive from Kim Jane in the Goodyear entry. They go down the back straight as we look for Terry Byers coming off turn number 4 now. We'll take the white flag, the last lap signal coming out for Terry Byers as the battle for second and third continues. There's second, Kim Jane, the number 27 Goodyear car. And right behind him, George Elliott in the 55 car.
Well, even if George hangs on to this position, he starts on the inside of the second row, which is a lot better than Charlie O'Brien, who's 2 points behind him in the championship.
Yeah, that was interesting. George just lay down and let him go by, so he's thinking of the championship, quite obviously.
Turn number 4 now, checkered flag at the ready, and it'll be Terry Byers from Wollongong. A superb drive from Terry. He gets across the line, car number 26. He takes heat number 1 over 50 laps. Second spot, as they come across the line, will go to Kim Jane in the 27 car, followed by George Elliott in 55. And coming home to finish back there in 4th place, Robin Best. 5th, Walter Giles, Sterling Drive there. And 6th across the line will be Alan Grice, just clear of Adam Pay in 7th. And Charlie O'Brien in car number 8 finishes back in 8th spot. That's the order as they come off the bottom corner. Let's check them out for you on our 7 Sport race score. Well done, Terry Byers in the Bob Jane T-Mart Chevy. Second spot going to Kim Jane in the Goodyear Pontiac. Third, Georgie Elliott. Fourth was Robin Best, and rounding out the 5 was Sir Walter.